Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is Comics Today. This is a show that we do on Wednesday night to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And I want to welcome everybody to this live stream. We are going to dig into a couple of topics that I think you will find interesting. And if you have never seen one of my videos before or live streams, I want to officially invite you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on any of the content. And if you are in the live stream right now, I definitely want to encourage you to let it be known if this is your first live stream so that we can welcome you officially. And as a reminder, this live stream will be rebroadcast on the podcast, and that way you can take a little Reggie on the go while you are out and about doing the things that you need to do. So I definitely want to encourage you to check that out on your favorite podcast platform, whatever that might be. If you search Reggie Collects, you will probably find me. And if you don't, let me know so that I can submit the podcast to that platform and then be there the next time you come looking for me. Typically during this show, Comics Today, we try to have a guest or two on to help me to make sense of something that is happening in the world of comics. And we are going to definitely have a couple of guests on tonight as we dig into what I think are a couple of really interesting topics, one more weighty than the other. Let's put it that way. And as part of this live stream, we are also going to give away two prize packs. We have two prize packs that we are going to give away. One of them is thanks to my man Chuck, who actually sent me an AOK, and in the AOK inserted a trivia question that resulted in a couple of people responding, getting it correct, and we are going to give one of those prizes away tonight. And then we're also going to give away a copy of the Gung Ho Sexy Beast issue number 4, the Yuko Smith variant that we did a little while ago. They're finally back from CGC. My man Joa, who picked up 2 copies of the variants, decided that he wanted me to give one away to one subscriber. So we're also going to announce that winner tonight. So I definitely want to encourage you guys to stay tuned because we are going to get into some of that stuff momentarily. What we typically do during this live stream is first we go to the chat and we find out whether people hit up their local comic shops and or made some purchases, possibly even online. And if you did, let us know what it is that you picked up. If you happen to read something that you think we should put on the top of our stacks, I definitely want you to acknowledge that as well. So I'm actually going to head over to the chat right now and see what's up. What is it? Adam says, bagging and boarding while watching. This is awesome. The Bay, Mrs. Reggie. Man, I'm going to tell you, brother, the Bay was good to me. The Bay was good to me in so many ways, but my family, which you might be able to hear in the background, is actually incredibly happy here in North Carolina, which makes a lot of things incredibly easy, right? So definitely appreciate the acknowledgement, brother. And yes, he is indeed. And I will tell you guys, last live stream, I think I was like sweating profusely because something was going on with the AC. We had the AC tech come out. Come to find out there was some kind of clog in my system. He flushed it. I changed the filter today, and I think we might actually be okay. Fingers crossed. If I sweat tonight, it's probably because I just finished working out not that long ago. The Tiger's in the house. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Della Suspense, my man. L. Smith. We can always count on some L. Smith. He said he picked up Aliens, Aftermath 1, Batman, The Detective 4, Conan, Invincible, Red Sonja from the folks over at Dynamite, specifically issue number 3, some Nottingham, and some other books. That's what's up, L. Smith. My man, Mark, we can always count on you as well. Picked up Sinister War. Is that Mamo 1? I have no clue what a Mamo is, but he picked up a Mamo 1. He also picked up the Conan. Where is Matt Woods? He has to be happy right now because that's 2 people that are supporting some Conan, and Burke Family Nasty is up. It's probably, or Burke Family Families. Burke Family is probably in here somewhere as well. Rangers of the Divide, House of Lost Horizons, Space Pirate Captain. A couple of cool books right there, and many of which I have never heard of before. But Mark's a cool guy, so I'm going to assume that those are some cool books. Scrolling through some of the comments here, seeing what else folks picked up. Let me see. The chat got away from me. Let me see. Scrolling through the comments. Oh, my man, how you doing? Always feels good. I'll send you a message after this live stream to follow up on that comment. Well, yeah, the guy flushed the system, man. There was some stuff that was in the pipes, man. It didn't look good. He stuck his finger in it and then he smelled it. I don't know what was going on with that that substance that was found in the pipes of my AC unit. But I'm glad I didn't have to clean it out. Let's just say that. All right, Steve, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. Oh yeah, Mark is giving a little bit of context for some of the books that he picked up. He said a boom box books. There we go. Thank you for that, brother. Oh, young Matthew. We have missed you, young Matthew. It is good to see you, my friend. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Oh, wait a minute, L. Smith. Oh, wait a minute. You go to the LCS with the wife? Ooh, she picked up Die 18, Eve, and Extreme Carnage Scream #1. That's a long title. Extreme Carnage Scream 1. That's a lot. That's a mouthful right there. Matt Woods is getting on the board. No one is surprised, my friend, that you picked up a bunch of Conan books. No one is surprised at all. Scrolling through the comments here, Matt Woods is over there amazed that that L. Smith's wife goes with him. We just assumed, brother, that you were going to the LCS, spending all that money on those books every single week and then like hiding the books. We just assumed because you buy a lot of books, but now we know your wife is in on the action as well. That's what's up. DC Dude is in the house. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. So again, it looks like a healthy number of people actually hit the LCS today. I did not make it. I had to run some errands. One of the errands that I ran was to Costco. I went to Costco, and as I was leaving, my wife was laughing, and she said, "I wish you luck." And I said, "Why?" She said, "You're going to Costco on a Wednesday afternoon." I said, "Yeah, what's the problem?" She said, "You will see." And I think what she was envisioning was that the traffic to get to the Costco was going to be horrible, all backed up, and that the lines in Costco were going to be crazy. The parking lot was going to be crazy. I was in and out of Costco in 8 minutes. I was in and out of Costco in 8 minutes. I don't eat the food, so I move pretty fast. I picked up 2 new office chairs and those mats that go underneath. I now have a nice office chair. It is quite comfortable. I will tell you that. I will be filming videos from this new seat, and I'm going to enjoy it. It is cushiony. It is vented in the back. I am thoroughly excited about this. So I bought one for myself and one for her, and hers is all set up in her soon-to-be office area. The wife is happy, and I am quite comfortable. So it all works out quite nicely. Dallas Smith said he picked up Thor 15 and Bunny Mask #2. I read Bunny Mask #1 and it was super creepy. Somebody sent it to me as an AOK. I read it. It was super creepy. And what's the other one that I'm reading? The Opposite Earths. Someone sent that one to me, and I don't know about that one yet. I need to finish reading it. It's different. I think it's from Aftershock. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around that different publishers have different approaches to comics, different writers, different creative styles. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around, I think it's different Earths, Opposite Earths, something like that. Someone sent it as an AOK, and I'm trying to give it a chance, to dig into it. So scrolling through some of the comments here, I think I'm, man, I'm gonna tell you, a different chair, a new chair makes a huge difference in someone's life. Jose picked up his 5th #1 Spawn copy. I'm gonna need you to take one of those G's out of that, Regie. It's just one G, just one G. My man Neo, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. As always, thank you for making out to the live stream. Super smart guy. Definitely enjoy this guy and the content that he puts out here on the YouTube machine. So if you guys get a chance, be sure to check him out. The very first thing that I want to do before I go too far is I want to give away one of these things, and then we're going to go to the very first guest here. I want to give away one of these things. And the trivia question that Chuck slid into the AOK that he sent to me was this: who were Mickey and Minnie Mouse's companions in the early newspaper strips? That is the trivia question. A handful of people answered it. The correct answer is Horace Horsecollar and Clara Belle Cow. Those were the 2 that was the 2-part answer that was correct, right? And he threw in a bonus here. They were engaged. I don't know if anybody knew that, but they were indeed engaged. I'm not sure if people know it, but let me see if I can share my screen real quick, and I will announce the winner that actually answered this question correctly and then was randomly chosen from the comment section. And the winner is my man, Mark Andrews, my Canadian brother, Mark Andrews. He got it right. I think he mostly spelled it correctly. I can't spell, so I'm like, hey, if you come close, it counts to me, counts for me. But you can see that only a handful of people actually answered this one, and my Canadian brother, Mark Andrews, scored it correctly. So he is going to be getting right here. Is this issue number 1? Yeah, this is the uncensored mouse right there, that first copy, and then here is number 2. So we're going to bundle these things up and send them off to Mark up in Canada, and hopefully that will make his day. Thank you, brother, for participating, and thank you, Chuck, for putting me in a position to be able to give away some cool stuff to at least one lucky subscriber. And we will also be giving away this one right here. This is Gung Ho Sexy Beast right there. We're going to give that away. The very first thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that I did a movie review. I tried to do a spoiler-free movie review earlier this week for a publisher out of Russia by the name of Bubble Comics. They had a person reach out to me, asked me if I would be willing to do it. We had an exchange. We talked about what they wanted. They wanted a movie review and also a blog post, and I teamed up with Doug to actually do the blog post. I did the video, and we released both of those things. And I want to actually have Doug come on the show real quick, and I want to get his initial impressions of what he thought about this movie. I don't want him to give away too much because I want you guys to go check out the video that I released and check out the blog post that he put together. That was incredibly well done. But I want to welcome to the show right now, my man, Doug. It is good to see you, brother. How are you?
Hey, Reggie, doing great. How are you?
So what's going on? You getting fancy over there?
The headset is my son's, and it's self-preservation because my wife's picking him up from karate, and that leaves me at home alone with
there you
Bentley.
go, the dog. I respect it. So, but it also looks like you have some new lights going on. You look better illuminated, and man, you're fancy, brother.
My Father's Day present was one of those ring lights, so I think Pam was getting tired of seeing me dark on the screen if I made her watch the rewind. So.
There we go. So she did it for herself. I get it. I respect it. I respect it. So it was fun partnering up with you on this project, man. And I want to definitely thank you for bringing the energy to that blog post that you put together. What are your high level thoughts on the major Grom movie that was released on Netflix? What are your thoughts, and why should people check it out?
Well, first, thank you for involving me in the project, because I had a blast. I enjoyed reading the comic, and I enjoyed watching the movie, and was very pleasantly surprised. Although the fact that Netflix picked it up was a good sign for me, because I think they've done a good job with finding foreign language properties to bring to the US. So I really enjoyed the movie. There were, you know, I don't want to give away a lot about it, because I do think people should watch the movie. And I liked watching your review after writing mine, because neither of us communicated while we were doing it. It was completely separate. So it was kind of fun to see what things that we highlighted that were similar, and also what things that you picked up on that I didn't either pick up on or include in the blog post. So, and one of the things you touched on was that there is definitely a campy element to it. And that is not usually my preferred vibe for a comic movie. I do understand why some filmmakers use it. It's just generally not my thing. But I did find it interesting, and you highlighted this, that some of the more campy elements were earlier on, and then it evolved into a more serious film. And I do think that from researching a little bit and talking to you, I knew they had made a Major Grom short a few years before the feature-length movie. And I do believe, and I think you pointed it out, that I think they actually expanded the short into this. So I think some of the earlier campy tones that then shifted into a little bit more serious realm was probably a function of that adjustment. But I thought they did a good job weaving it in and out. It didn't feel too uneven. It felt like it evolved. And I like movies with plot twists. And there were some really good ones in this. So I enjoyed that. The filmmaking quality was high. And I thought the acting, especially by the lead actor who played Major Grom and some of the close supporting cast around him, did a really good job.
Overall, I felt like it was definitely solid. And we'll see whether these guys actually introduce and release more content here in the US. They're, talking with their people, it sounded like if there is an appetite for and an interest in some of the things that they're doing, they're like, hey, we might actually bring more things to the US in terms of physical comics even. But right now, I definitely want to encourage people, if Doug and I, through our comments, through the blog post, through the video, pique your interest, I definitely want to encourage you guys to check out the movie. And there is also a link in the various descriptions and also blog posts where you can actually go check out the source material. Again, if this is something you're into, this is a great way to show your support, show your interest in this stuff, which gives them motivation. And if it's not your thing, that's actually cool as well. But I wanted to take a moment to at least talk about it. Doug, I want to take you off screen here, but I want you to hold on because I want you to come back so we can talk about the second topic. So bear with me, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So one of the other things that I wanted to do is I actually have another guest that's going to come on here because we started talking about this movie, this Major Grom movie that was released on Netflix. And right now, I have said this before, that I think we are like in a golden age of comics. And I say that for a lot of reasons. And one of the big reasons is the adaptation of comic book properties to movies and TV shows, as illustrated by the Major Grom. We see a lot of this right now. And I wanted to invite my next guest on to spend a couple of minutes giving me a little bit of insight into his perspective on what he is seeing right now as a long-term collector in this hobby. So I want to welcome to the show my man, Milt.
Howdy, Reggie.
It is good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
So you have been collecting comics since the 60s, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, no, I started way back in 65, 66.
There you go. And so, I remember back when, Lou Ferrigno was Incredible Hulk wearing green body paint. Yes. And even as a kid, I would look at that and I knew that was Lou Ferrigno wearing body paint, right?
Yeah. Well,
and I wasn't blown away by any of that. And I'm curious, as a long-term collector, whether you ever envisioned what we are seeing right now, which is all of these wonderful comic book properties coming to the big screen and small screen. Did you anticipate that?
I don't believe anybody ever did. Back then, most of those movies were geared towards kids, and younger, parents could take their kids to go see a lot of the movies. Even the first Superman movie way back in '79, that was geared. All those were geared more towards kids.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like in the late 80s, it started to change, maybe with the Batman movie with Jack Nicholson, and they tried to gear the writing more towards adults. I did some numbers, which is interesting. The number of movies that they made back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, it almost doubled every decade.
Really? Wait a minute. So you're saying that I think you pointed this out when we talked earlier, that you were saying that what we're seeing now isn't exactly new, right? These movies have been around for a while. They've been making them. But what I think I just heard you say is that they've essentially been doubling the number of comic book related movies every single decade. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, we go from in the 60s 2 to in the 70s 14, In the 80s, 22. In the 90s, 48. In the first decade of this 2000s, 100. 2010s, 218.
That's
so
crazy.
It's a flow. It's a pattern, and not all of them are superhero movies. So you figure maybe not all of them belong to the MCU or are DC properties. Right. So there's an awful lot with the influx of independent comics. That's what I think got more movies being made related to comics properties.
I think that's one of the interesting things that you just said there is that people talk oftentimes about fatigue, superhero fatigue. People are going to get tired of seeing these movies, but the reality is that I do believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there are a lot of comic book non-superhero movies and shows that are being created that are still out there for people. Like, I think The Road to Perdition was a comic, I do believe.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Great movie. I mean, there are other movies like I was unaware of, like The Empty Man, Extraction. They're based upon comics, but I was unaware of the comic. What's interesting also, the number of comic books that are related to TV shows and the number of comics that are related to films. Going back to the 60s to currently, the number of comics I found in the Wikipedia was 227 comics related to TV shows and 147 comics related to film, which when you add it up, that's 374 comics related to TV or film, which is almost the same number of comic books, movies that are based upon comics.
Right.
So it goes both ways.
That is a lot of intellectual property being adapted for a screen. And what's amazing, when you rattle off those numbers, I also think about all of those movies and TV shows that get optioned that we never actually see because they never actually come to a screen. There's probably a lot more out there that have been picked up for whatever reason. Like you think about, what is it? Atlas? Is it Atlas Comics? They have that deal with Paramount. We may never see an Atlas movie or TV show come out, but those things have been picked up. And it's staggering what we are seeing right now. And to your point, maybe how long some of this has actually been going on, because I don't think that I fully appreciated that there were that many for that long a period of time.
Yeah. Well, in addition, why are the comic superheroes so popular right now, as well as the technology of the last 15, 20 years has been increasing exponentially as well. And people go and they see things, and it's just they marvel at what they see on TV. I mean, or on the movie screen. It
really is impressive.
Yes,
it's not Lou Ferrigno with body paint anymore. I mean, they still use body paint, but it looks legit. It doesn't rub off between different scenes.
Well, it'll just think how it's going to be 10 years from now. It's going to be mind-boggling.
It is going to be incredible. So, Milt, I want to thank you, brother, for joining me for a couple of minutes here. Before I let you go, I want you to go ahead and shout out your social media, your YouTube channel, whatever it is that you want to promote. Go ahead and do it right now.
Well, if anybody's bored out there and they want to go see some CGC unboxings or have me talk about Marvel Treasury editions, go to Milt's Comics Mansion.
There we go. And, Milt, it's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you for everything. You've been a great supporter of the channel, and I absolutely appreciate you.
Thank you kindly, Reggie. You
take care, brother. Love that guy. All right. So again, Milt dropped a couple of knowledge bombs there that I wasn't quite aware of. So I definitely appreciate that. Before we get to the next section here, I want to go ahead and go announce the next winner. And again, I want to give a huge shout out to my man Joa for putting me in a position to be able to give away a copy of this Sexy Beast issue number 4 variant. And the winner of this one, and again, for this one, you actually had to comment on the major Grom video, and then I randomly picked a person from that. The winner of this next giveaway is Cameron. Cameron is the winner. He says his comment here is really interesting to see Russia produce high quality comics and films. I'm all for foreign material. If it's high quality, I'll have to check it out. And you can see that there were basically 38 people that responded to that one. So shout out to Cameron, both to he and to Mark. Make sure you guys send me your email, send me an email with your mailing address so I can bundle this stuff up and get it sent out to you. But this is what Cameron is going to get thanks to my man Joa. I'm going to bundle this stuff up and send it out to those guys. Definitely appreciate the continued support. So the next topic that I wanted to dig into is basically the major topic that we were going to dig into today. And this one is related to the announcement that was made, I do believe, on July 1st, that Jay-Z and Blackstone had acquired CGC. And I will tell you, from that initial press release that came out, because I went live 2 hours after the press release was released, and I went live and I talked about what was happening, right? I reported on some of this stuff, and it was not clear to me from that first press release whether the acquisition was of the comics division, so CGC proper, or whether it was the parent company of CGC, which includes a lot of other companies, including CCS, NCS, NGC, PMG, just to name a few. Like if you go to cgccomics.com and scroll down to the bottom, you see a bunch of 3-letter acronyms down there. All of those represent multiple companies that I think are all standalone corporations. And so it wasn't clear to me from that press release, but I think we now know, based upon some additional information that's come out, that it appears that Jay-Z and Blackstone have indeed acquired the parent company. They have acquired everything, which makes the $500 million valuation make a lot more sense now, right? Because even though CGC, the comic side, is I guess a profitable entity, it's the paper money side that is also a huge money maker for that organization. So they basically acquire all of it, which is interesting, right? And I will tell you, from the outset, there were a lot of people that were not happy about the acquisition. They were not happy at all. And a lot of people weren't, and I shouldn't say this, there were some people that were unhappy with me because I did not condemn this acquisition from the beginning. And there are reasons why. There are reasons why they were upset, and there's reasons why I didn't condemn it, right? I think there are legitimate points on both sides, but I actually want to dig into this issue a little bit, and I'm actually going to have Doug come back to join me here to talk a little bit more about this. Doug, were you caught off guard by some of, maybe outrage is too strong a word, by some, maybe some of the pushback that was expressed in the comic book community about this acquisition of CGC?
I wouldn't say surprised. I think anytime multi-billion-dollar funds acquire corporations, there are impacts that go, far beyond the things that we think of just as a comic collector and how that's going to affect grading. So I wouldn't say I was surprised. I would think that any type of corporate purchase like this would raise some eyebrows. The company, or I don't know if company is the right word, Blackstone, the fund that acquired it, has, I think, is like a $700 or $800 billion in assets and lots of other different companies. And with that comes baggage. There are certainly people that get into concerns about business ethics and things that have happened, impacts on the environment, impacts on employees of companies, and choices that have been made. And I'll be really honest, I know very little about that. So I'm not going to speak to whether that outrage is correct or not, because I'm not knowledgeable enough to share my opinions on that.
Had you even heard of Blackstone prior to the announcement?
I think so, but not. I didn't know much about it. You know, I think I'd occasionally seen an article here or there about them acquiring some other company, but that's the extent of it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I know Jay-Z well, right? I know Jay-Z well. I listen to a lot of Jay-Z music. And if you want to talk about Jay-Z, we can do Jay-Z all day. If you want to talk about Blackstone, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know Blackstone from Black Rock, from Black Water, from Black Mold. I don't know. And right. And so I personally did not feel like I had enough knowledge to wade in those waters to really give my opinion and assessment about the business ethics of Blackstone, right? And I've subsequently done some research, right? And they have been involved in some really aggressive things, you know? And so I think that those people that have spoken out against them are probably justified to feel the way that they do. I, again, don't have enough experience or exposure or knowledge to really truly dig into whether that is good or bad, right? And so I have opted to focus my attentions where I feel like I can speak from a more knowledgeable place. And so, again, there were people that were really upset with me that were like, how can you not say something bad about them? And I'm like, well, I don't really know enough about them. Like, if you want to talk about spandex, we can talk about spandex. We can talk about Jay-Z and whether, you know, his relationship with Beyonce is good or bad, right? We can talk about that. Blackstone, I don't know enough. So
Yep.
I kind of dodged some of those comments because I honestly didn't feel comfortable.
I think we both come from that school of listen and learn when we don't know enough to say. So.
And if I have to, like, if I really have to, I'll say something. I'll make some stuff up. As a good marketer, I can think on my feet. But I've also recognized that when I say things from this microphone, that it can be taken a lot of different ways. And so I want to be very careful about some of the things that I've said. So I opted to step aside of some of those things. But one of the things that I did find as I was digging into some of the details, thinking about some of maybe the negatives that could come with this acquisition, is that in the past, and I don't know how recent past, don't get me started on the details, that when Blackstone has acquired companies, some of what they've done is to immediately extract value from that organization. And they've extracted that value through a host of different things, including laying off a lot of people in order to basically recover the investment that they made into that organization. Do you think that part of maybe what people are fearful of is that could happen to the CGC organization as a whole? Or is that potentially not it?
I think so. You know, and what you said early on, that it's important to contextualize that they purchased CCG, the parent company, which makes it more confusing because CCG and CGC are very similar sounding. Yeah. So because of that, that extracting value, that can be done in different ways. That can be investing in to improve and expand, or it can be cutting inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. And from a purely investment standpoint, cutting inefficiencies sounds like, okay, that's great. You know, you're gonna improve something. But what that can look like in real life is cutting divisions, cutting jobs, laying off real people, yes, who are the lifeblood of a company. So I do think that, you know, some fear or concern, you know, leads you down the path of, is the intention of acquiring this asset to grow it to make more money, and what good can come of that? Or is it to increase the value, and could there be some negatives involved with the increasing of the value, such as quote unquote cutting inefficiencies, which we don't know. You know, CGC, I believe, especially based on the fact that I think Matt, who heads CGC, just got a big promotion. So that's a good sign, yes, that CGC isn't looked as an quote unquote inefficiency.
It's also great that some of the owners that were there previously are still going to maintain some ownership. But I interrupted your thought. Please continue.
No, well, I just think that, they do. It's important, as you mentioned, that CCG has all these other, smaller departments or divisions or companies underneath them. So we don't know how much of this was driven by CGC's reputation and abilities versus a host of other service offerings. So there is a lot of unknown in what is going to specifically happen in CGC. Now, I believe it's the press release that was released, because I read the exact same 3 paragraphs and 5 different articles. The language that was used, presumably by Blackstone and CCG's marketing companies, make it sound like there's a lot more intention to expand and grow the business rather than look at how we can extract value and cut waste.
There was a lot in there. And what I will tell you, that there are roughly 300 people that are employed by CCG. I think that's right. By CCG.
Okay.
Roughly 300 people that are down there. I've been to the building. They were packed to the gills in that building, but everybody was busy. There didn't seem to be anybody that was sitting around. With some of the other organizations that they've acquired, when they found synergies or improved efficiencies, right? That is all business talk for laying people off, right?
Yeah.
They were laying off in one case, 1,800 people. That is a lot of people, a lot of lives that are affected. You're talking 300 down at CCG. And my hope is that they won't necessarily find those types of inefficiencies that need to be corrected. It's more maybe processes, internal processes and procedures that might need to be improved, which will improve efficiency and also profitability. That would be my hope. But one of the paragraphs that I think you probably read, because I know that I read, is this one right here. And I want to get your impression of this quote here from the press release. It says, Blackstone will seek to accelerate CCG's growth, enabling the company to invest significantly in its current and planned services, adding and training new employees, expanding its geographic and product reach, acquiring new technologies, and developing its digital presence. As you read that statement and hear me read that statement to you, what jumps out at you that is noteworthy from that?
So in my notes, I wrote that exact quote down and broke it down into its component parts, because I think they're really important to stress. So, for example, accelerating growth through investing in current and planned services. Okay, CGC is a current service. Adding and training new employees. That sounds a lot less like reducing and more like, hey, we can accomplish more and we can process more by getting more staff, not less. Expanding geographic reach, obviously different parts of the world. Product reach, I think, is a really interesting one, because I think that could mean a lot of different things for CGC. It could mean growth and expansion of their grading services into new and creative areas, ancillary products that could go along with grading. Might they wade into the waters of competing? CBCS right now has the only signature verification versus on-site witnesses. Could they decide to expand in those ways? We don't know, but we know they're interested in expanding their product reach. Yep. That, to me, by far and away, the most interesting element of this paragraph was the acquiring new technologies. I feel like the one area that all grading companies, including CGC, which does a great job, could improve on, are making better use of artificial intelligence and more scientific grading processes, like taking incredibly high resolution scans of books and actually using technology rather than people to count defects on a book, identify them, document, record them in a database.
The same way that they do for trading cards and also for coins. That technology is there right now. And what you're suggesting is that potentially they could leverage that for comics and maybe speed up the grading process, maybe improve the accuracy, strip out some of the subjectivity associated with it. Thoughts?
All of that. I think for me as a collector, I care most about consistency. And because right now comic grading by all grading companies is more of an art than a science, the more it can become a science, the less frustrated I'll be as a consumer. I do feel that it can help speed up the process. It can use still human element to do things like identify restoration, to check interiors of the book, things like that.
To count pages.
Yeah, but imagine that the exterior, front, back cover, spine, corners, all of that are digitally tracked immediately with a full database list of all defects when you get it graded. Your grader's notes are no longer like blunted corner. Yeah. It's like, we calculated, 43 micro deficiencies. Here's what they are. And you can really start now comparing within a grade, a high end and a low end, even within that 9.8 or 9.6. That increases value dramatically for clients or customers.
You know what? So, I'm actually freaking out right now. And no, seriously, because I have a lot of people that reach out to me asking me to give opinions on different things, different thoughts. I had a consultant reach out to me, probably 5 months ago. And I gave this guy an hour and we talked about using technology to grade comics. And I outlined for him all the reasons why I didn't think it could work. Not to say that it was a bad idea. I thought it was a good idea, but like, here are the challenges that I see. You still have to count the pages. Like you still have to thumb through it. You still have to look at the page cut. Like I gave him all these reasons why it wasn't like a trading card, which was front and back, right?
Yep.
I wonder if this was market research that was being done by Blackstone in advance of the acquisition. Right. Because I also know that they met with some operational efficiency companies several months ago as well. So I wonder if these things were connected, and the person wouldn't tell me the client that he was working for. I didn't ask the question, right? Because I do market research myself and you're not supposed to divulge those things. And I'm just wondering if what you are describing right now is something that is already in the works and has been for several months, because I already fed into it. It would be really interesting to see if they go this route. And I wonder if I'll get a check for it. I don't know.
I have heard that CGC has looked into technology to aid this process. But when there's a $500 million valuation and deep pockets that can now outsource and buy the technology and hire the people who can create the technology that you need, that's a big thing. So whether it was CGC exploring what people in the community think about it, or a company who wants to buy them and they want to know what people are thinking because they know going this way could help with faster turnaround, improve the product. But we've got to make sure the clients are on board. That it's very possible that that's who you spoke with.
It also improves the reliability of the grade and the ability to really turn these into true investments, which was another thing that I think was cited in the press release that was issued. So again, just interesting stuff when you start to connect some of these dots. And one of the things that you hinted at that I've discussed before is that, and I think this might be something that is of interest to people. Yes, make CGC better, make them better. improve the efficiency, improve the turnaround time. I mean, I have books that are still there from 1/5 of this year, from January 5th of this year that I like to get back, right? So I'm a big fan of that. But what jumped out at me from that paragraph, honestly, was the geographic expansion, was the possibility of getting offices in other places in North America and possibly beyond, because I firmly believe that there is a huge market for comics outside of the US, in like Europe and also in Asia. Those would be great places to have offices. I mean, you have to worry about the art and the science of grading, but if you have technology to assist you and Matt Nelson to train you, or to oversee the training and rollout, now you strip away some of that subjectivity that allows you to geographically spread yourself a little further, which might actually improve turnaround times and efficiencies overall. Thoughts?
I agree. And can you just imagine the shipping costs from Canada to the US? If you had grading services in Canada, yes, the money and the time that you would save in international shipping.
Yep.
So
for everybody, for the customer and for the
customer
CGC.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and especially for the customer. And the reality is, if you can change your process where, let's say, the grading of a book might cost, say depending on the book, you're in about $20 on the grading. If you're going to have to spend an extra 15 to 20 per book on shipping, if that can get cut by 60%, now you can increase your price to $25 and your client is still saving money.
Yep.
So there's a lot of reasons that, that are everybody wins situations by increasing those efficiencies, and expanding geographically is a big part of that.
There's a little bit of a discussion here. I don't think they will pause submissions. If they do too many customers, will switch to CBCS. There was a lot of people that said that thought that would happen. And on April 1st of this year, there was a meme that was going around that CGC had indeed paused submissions that I think a lot of people actually believed. I don't think that they're going to pause submissions at this point. I mean, I think that they are just like, you know what, we are going to weather this storm. And I will tell you, I want to say it was last week, all of my shipments that were in at CGC started to suddenly move through the process. It was exciting. Yesterday, I received 33 books. 33 books out of 150 some odd books flowed into my house. And I think that there's a notice in my inbox right now of something else. So I don't know what magic is being made, but I kind of like it. And I hope that they don't freeze submissions. I hope that they keep it going. So I'm trying to scroll through some of the comments. We oftentimes don't go to the comment section when we are talking. So I'm actually trying to scan to see if there's anything over there that I might want to jump out on. So bear with me as I do that. In your mind, Doug, do you see any type of downside to what is happening right now? I mean, one of the easiest is probably going to be a potential price increase. I think a lot of people anticipate that we, $50 million is a lot of money, right? And they could say, you know what, we need to recover this money as swiftly as possible. So we're going to jack prices up. Do you see that as a possibility? And do you see any other potential negatives that could come out of this acquisition as it relates to comics?
I do. They're speculative, but just knowing their past history of looking at quote unquote inefficiencies, we don't know what level or how deeply they're going to dive into what CGC does. So for example, let's say they decide this is great and we're making a lot of money, but it's inefficient for us to go to Comic Cons. There's too much involved with sending staff and collecting books and, transporting the books. So we think we're going to cut that out. As a collector, I might take advantage of going to shows. And I'm not saying they're going to do this, but that's the unknown. We don't know to what, I guess, minutia they're going to go to and what they're going to decide to eliminate. Some of those things they might decide to eliminate might be things that I like or you like or other collectors like. So I think that's always a possibility. Or, hey, we don't think our cleaning and pressing service is making enough money. Cgc's doing great, but CCS, and now we eliminate that. Well, if you as a collector rely heavily on CCS for that, and you don't like cleaning and pressing a book or having someone do it and then dealing with shipping, that, again, they might just want to expand it, but these are things that we don't know. I think by far and away the biggest thing is the price increase. The reality is, and I think Northeast Ohio is in the chat and could probably speak to PSA much better than I could. But some of the card grading services increase their fees in a year from like $10 to $12 per card to like $100 per card.
Wow.
So for different service levels and turnaround time, to the point where, you could pay, instead of $8 a card for a bulk submission, it was like, say, $30, $40 for a bulk submission that might take you a year. If you wanted the expedited turnaround that used to cost, say, $15 or $20, that's $100. It's possible you could have someone come in and say, hey, we think the service we provide is much more valuable than we're charging for. Mm-hmm. And an immediate way to recoup our investment is you're not paying $20 for a book to be graded and slabbed. You're paying $40 or $60. So those are very real possibilities.
Yep.
They're totally speculative. Again, if they find other ways to improve their product, they could increase prices at smaller levels, but give so much better in return that people aren't going to care. I don't think anybody would blink at a $5 or $10 increase if they were going to get a significantly better product, significantly faster. But I don't think anybody wants to start paying $50 to $100 per slab and have the same wait times and the same product, which is what card collectors experience with PSA.
Good, faster, cheap. Pick two.
Yep.
I mean, that's a thing, right? One of the other things that I think is really interesting is that almost immediately after the acquisition being announced of Blackstone, of CCG by Blackstone and Jay-Z, we got the announcement that they actually moved into video games, which I think is really interesting. Like there seemed to be a plan, right? There seemed to be a plan that they were executing against. And so what we might see is them rolling out additional services like that, ancillary services, because a graded collectible is a graded collectible, right? And so you could see some of that. There's a comment here from Neo. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Neo just made a little bit of an announcement. I'm guessing he actually broke this on his channel. He says PSA bought WADA today. I wouldn't be surprised if they started up a comic grading company. So PSA is the leader when it comes to, I guess, graded cards, and WADA does the grading for games. And I think they were the industry leader. What's interesting is I think that some of the CGC people were on the board for WADA. So that's a little interesting play right there. But I had not heard that. And Neo, if you release that video on your channel, let us know that, because I want to go watch that video, because that is definitely news to me. Doug, does that catch you off guard? Are you surprised by that? I mean, it kind of makes sense. Consolidation of a market is typical, right? So we shouldn't necessarily be, but what are your thoughts?
I think it makes a ton of sense. And I misspoke. I said PSA is sports cards. I think they're all kinds of cards, but it wouldn't surprise me if companies like Beckett, who now have CBCS, I believe, and companies like PSA and WADA, if you don't see more of those mergers or acquisitions, because you've got to compete now. I had not seen CCG going into video games. I think I did see they're going into, like, I don't know if it was, maybe it was video games. I thought it was like VHS and DVDs too. There's so many different.
No. That's next week.
Oh, that's next week. Okay, there you go.
Because they already went into the playing cards. Like I was down there and I got a chance to play with some, like they had a Black Lotus or something like that. That was like $900,000, which was like crazy. So now they're into video games, graded video games, basically competing with WANA. And I don't know if it was you that I was joking with somebody, like they're going into DVDs and VHS next and CDs. I mean, I think everything is, if it can be slabbed, if it can be slabbed, it will be slabbed by somebody out there, because that is basically where the market is headed right now.
Yeah. If they're collectors, I mean, there's people who spend tons of money on sneakers, you know, collectibles. There might already be slabbing and grading. I don't know.
I've never seen that, but
there will be. I mean, there is no collectible that can't benefit from some form of third-party independent grading. And every collectible industry has seen dramatic increases in values and increases in trust. So in the product exchanging hands. So it's going to happen. I think there's going to be more of these companies, you know, getting together on this, because there always was a big boy on the block and it just got a lot bigger.
Agreed. And PSA is pretty dominant from everything that I hear. And I honestly did not know that they increased their prices as much as they did. I just think back to the comic book collectors that were upset about what I think were really small increases for getting comics graded in comparison to a year wait for PSA and that type of substantial increase. You know, we are very much focused on comics. And if we take a step back from comics and look at some of the things that are happening in the broader world, I think it gives a little bit of comfort, maybe, that maybe we don't have it so bad. You know, as much as we want to make it about comics, when you step away, you start to maybe really appreciate what else is actually happening out there in the market. So there's a comment here from my man Chuck. He says quality control is a big thing right now until CGC gets a turnaround time and consistency and grading fix. The rest is background noise, he says. And you know, these are legitimate points. You know, one thing that I will tell you is that none of these grading companies, none of these services are perfect. None of them. Right. And people often say, well, what is the best one? Like, I don't know, because I haven't found it. Right. I have experienced some of them, and I have landed on one that is like my personal preference, but that doesn't mean that it's the best one. It is the one that works for me. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. If they were, it would be amazing, but that is not the case. My graded vinyl records would be huge. So for those people that are coming in a little bit late, I'm joined by Doug, and we are having a great conversation around the acquisition of CGC and whether it is good or bad for comic books. And what we walked through is that there's a little bit of good and bad. There's a little bit of both sides, and there was a lot of unknown. Because here's the other thing, Doug, that I was thinking about in the back of my head. We don't know whether Blackstone is going to turn their attention immediately to CGC. And you were kind of making this point, right? But I want to take it a step further. If the paper money side of the house is the real money maker for CCG, there's a chance that they may not even look at comics for a little while, because they're going to be preoccupied with all of the money and efficiencies and improvements that need to be made on the paper money side. They cannot change an entire organization all at once. You have to prioritize, and they may say, you know what, this is, and I'm making this up because I honestly don't know, 70% of our revenue, or the 70% of the valuation, or even 60% of the valuation. We're going to focus on paper money, right? Thoughts on that?
I tell you what, I would be tempted, knowing that PSA is currently still shut down, and or it might have just reopened, but figuring itself out. If I had 2 new divisions that I opened this year that focus on non-sports and sports cards, I'd be looking at how can I get everybody to get tired of sending stuff into PSA and send it into me, because there's a lot of money there, even though that the card market is rough right now. But yeah, coins, currency, they have so many other divisions. They might say, hey, Matt Nelson's doing a great job there. He knows what he's doing. We just promoted him to president. Let's just kind of let him keep doing his thing. We'll ask how we can help, where we can give money to maybe develop some of these technologies or expand, but let's focus our attention elsewhere for the moment.
Yep, I do not disagree. And again, the folks are in here are having a really wonderful conversation, which I definitely appreciate you guys taking some time to do that. All right, so with that, Doug, we have reached the 1 hour mark. I love our conversations. I really do. I enjoy collaborating with you whenever I have an opportunity to do so. So I definitely appreciate that. Before I let you go and before I wrap up this live stream, can you go ahead and give a shout out for maybe a recent blog post, your social media? If you want people to get a hold of you, this is your opportunity. Have at it.
Thanks, Reggie. And the feeling is mutual. My Instagram is Doug.Bratton, BRATTON.9. RegieCollects.com every Wednesday. And like this week, there's a couple. So check out the blog posts. I also do want to give a quick shout out to Matt Woods and Phil Tastic, who I think are both in the chat. They came out to our comics yard sale. And if you look behind me, that painting of Dream from Sandman was done by Phil Tastic. He gave that to me as an A-OK. So they are both great guys, and I appreciate them coming out and meeting them in person.
So if you don't know why he has a Sandman in the background, you are not paying attention, because this dude is all in on some Sandman. Like he writes at least one blog post a month on Sandman, and I learn a lot. I have a box now downstairs in the comic book area labeled Sandman, where whenever I find a Sandman book, I stick it in there, because this dude is making some serious predictions for what the future may hold. But as always, brother, I appreciate your level of preparedness, your thoroughness with your responses, and again, just the collaboration is appreciated. So I will talk to you soon.
Take care.
So for those folks that came in a little bit late, we just had a wonderful conversation about several different things, primarily around Blackstone and Jay-Z's acquisition of CCG, Cgc'S, and LMNOP, and all of the alphabet soup that is this organization that was recently acquired. If you guys missed it, I definitely want to encourage you to go back and go ahead and watch it from the start of the live stream. That way you can not miss out on any of the details. We also announced 2 winners. I think it was Cameron and my man Mark Andrews. So the 2 of you, please make sure you send me an email with all of your contact information to Regie@RegieCollects.com, so I can bundle up your gifts, your prize winnings, and send them out to you. I definitely want to thank everybody that is in the live stream right now for taking the time to watch this live stream. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, I certainly want to encourage you to go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I definitely want to encourage you to do that, because that way you don't miss out on any of the content that I released several times over the course of the week, along with 2 live streams. And if you haven't checked out the podcast, be sure to check that out. This live stream that we just did will be rebroadcast on the podcast, which is available to you on all of the platforms that are out there. Just search for Regie Collects. As always, if you guys need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.